everyone. Thank you so much for attending. I welcome you to East Hampton and to share in our city's success as a housing choice community and hear about our next steps and needed partnership with the state to create a robust continuum of housing and jobs in East Hampton. East Hampton's designation as a housing choice community gives us multiple tools to unlock long-standing impediments to growing our housing stock and encouraging mixed-use development. We are standing in the middle of successes. As I look at our Mill District, we look at Mill 180, Millside Park, our Manhattan Rail Trail, and behind us, one of our next big steps, One Ferry Street. So far, this designation has allowed us to vertically stack many grants and economic enticements for private development. We have leveraged our public dollars to attract private investment, making tangible the vital connection between housing, jobs, and sustainable smart growth. And today, we are standing with more results to come in this very area. We have local site plan approval for the 3,000 square foot mixed-use development project right behind us at One Ferry. We are soon to install our Valley Bike Share throughout our community, connecting with other communities throughout the Pioneer Valley. We have started our municipal vulnerability project feasibility study to protect our environment. Over to the left on Mount Tom, we have just preserved 22 acres of viewshed for future generations, and we've used the Community Compact Program to modernize our budget, forecasting, and capital improvement plan, which allowed us to increase our bond rating with Standard & Poor's to the highest bond rating in the last 20 years of East Hampton's history to AA+. Thank you. That bond rating will save the residents of East Hampton, the taxpayers of East Hampton, millions of dollars as we go out to sell $50 million worth of bonds to build a new pre-K to 8 school. Thank you, Pat. Okay. But to continue forward, ensuring our current successes to come to full fruition, the recently filed bill by the governor and lieutenant governor, the Housing Choice Initiative bill, provides a path to do that exactly and expand successes to other areas of our city. We will be looking specifically for that bill to help us to develop accessory dwelling units or in-law apartments. We will be allowed greater access to smart growth and starter home districts that's near our existing activity centers. And we'll look to transfer development rights and enacting stronger natural resource protection zoning, giving local options for zoning processes that allow full public vetting, but also understand market timing for housing and what we need today to be successful tomorrow. I must thank again the Baker-Polito administration for their steadfast confidence and support that they have lent to East Hampton with the ready access tools that work in real time on the local level to accomplish what the residents of East Hampton envision for their city. At this time, I welcome Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito to the podium, a true cheerleader for all 351 communities in Massachusetts to create housing and jobs. Lieutenant Governor.
Good morning. I'm very honored to be here with Representative Dan Carey, Lynn Wallace of Wayfinders, Valley CDC, and the partnership, Tim Brennan from Pioneer Valley Planning, and so many others, including Mayor Lachapelle, who continues to be a leader for our communities in our Commonwealth, and most recently joined Governor Baker and our team at the State House to highlight the importance of housing in our Commonwealth. Before getting to that, I just want to start with a congratulations to all of you here in East Hampton. This is amazing progress that you're making in one of our smaller cities. in Western Mass. And a lot of people are saying, why are you here today to highlight the importance of housing? Well, housing is an economic development tool, and it can be used in a community like East Hampton to think about where will more housing and what kind of housing will truly be impactful for your community. You take a mill building like this, there are many developers, except for Mike who's here, might look at this and see it as a daunting challenge to reuse it from a factory to housing. But by doing so, you bring a density of people who live in this community, in this neighborhood, 24/7, and they want restaurants and shops, and they need activities and culture and entertainment and services. It's an economic development tool. And that is one thing that the mayor truly embraces as a leader of this city in our Commonwealth, and looking to leverage the public programs, the state programs, to do more of this. More recently, and last year, a $3.8 million MassWorks grant for the building just behind us to also become the home to more residents, that people who want to reside in this community is an extension and an expansion of what you have underway here already. But the issue for our Commonwealth is a simple one to describe. We have a hot economy from east to west, north to south, hottest jobs market in the history of this Commonwealth. But at the same time, one of the biggest challenges we have is the lack of affordable and accessible housing for people who live in this Commonwealth, or for people who are coming here to work and to be able to access housing so they can stay here. Over the course of a few decades, in the 60s and to the 80s, we were building about 30,000 new units of housing a year. Over the past 2 decades, we have been building about 8,000 to 10,000 units of housing a year. So this clearly puts us behind other states that are growing more housing stock and are more affordable for people to live in. And it is a concern to all of us as we want to continue to be a hot economy and a great Commonwealth to live in. We need to continue to provide these kinds of homes for people to live in. Housing, this is an issue for all kinds of housing. We highlight today, workforce housing and downtown housing, but the ability in a community to think about housing for older citizens, empty nesters who might not want to live in a single-family home and want to move into another kind of housing in their community. Free up that single-family home for a family to come into. Or to think about those in your community who are more vulnerable, from homelessness to the shelters, to providing transitional housing for people to be able to come up and bring more stability through their lives. So for the whole spectrum of housing that's needed in this Commonwealth, we need to do better. And one of the things that I've been able to learn in my travels through this Commonwealth, I've been to all 351 cities and towns, that every community, if they are properly thinking about how housing can stabilize their community and plan for their future, they can design the housing that will work for them. And we understood, both the governor and I, having been former local officials, that you cannot dictate and mandate the terms from Beacon Hill. Clearly, housing is a very local decision. It has to be driven by the community's grassroots. And it's not a one-size-fits-all. Each area of our Commonwealth has different needs, different demographics, different goals and challenges. So we said, why don't we work with local communities in a program that they can opt into, it's voluntary, and help them to design the housing of their choice. And the one way to do this is to change the rules at the local level. Zoning, as everyone knows, in Massachusetts is a very parochial issue. Every community has their own set of zoning bylaws. And at this time, we want to be able to give the communities some additional tools to work with. Because currently, under the Massachusetts laws, It requires a 2/3 vote of the local body to pass certain project approvals. We highlighted 8 different best practices, ranging from 40R, which is a designation here in East Hampton, to changing dimensional lot size requirements, to changing parking requirements, accessory dwelling uses, as examples of best practices that could be adopted locally by a simple majority vote as opposed to a 2/3 vote. And that shift from 2/3 to majority will open up a lot more opportunities in a community that is choosing the kinds of housing that will work for them. We are hearing over and over again too many projects that communities want are getting defeated by just a few votes at the local level and are not allowing the production of housing at the rate that we need. And we feel that the housing choice legislation that we have now refiled will give communities the flexibility, the opportunity to design a housing program that can work for their future. And we obviously need more support to do that, and that's why we're here in East Hampton to highlight how that kind of zoning change can impact the quality of life for people in our communities. I also want to highlight that our goal is to create 135,000 new units of housing by 2025. If we keep the rules the same at the local level, we will not get to that goal. And I feel very strongly, as does Governor Baker and many others that are supporting this initiative, that we will be less competitive as a Commonwealth if we don't address this now. I also want to acknowledge my partners in the legislature. We were able to pass last year a $1.8 billion bond bill. It's the highest amount in a bond bill in the history of this Commonwealth, which is leading to the creation of more affordable units and the preservation of housing. So when you have a housing choice bill like this, coupled with the $1.8 billion bond bill that's addressing the preservation of affordable housing and the creation of more affordable housing and working with our local housing authorities, the whole package creates more opportunities for people across the economic spectrum. I would also just add that I think the urgency cannot be understated. That this is an issue that is not just in Eastern Mass, where rental prices are going up and too many families can't find themselves an opportunity to stay within that city, but it's an issue for rural communities, suburban communities, as well as our urban centers across our Commonwealth in all the regions of our state. We're very happy to kick off our efforts to reform local zoning through our housing choice legislation here in East Hampton to highlight that very point. Even here in East Hampton, your property prices have gone up 16%. There are virtually no rental units available to people in this community who would want that as an option. So in every community, the challenge exists to figure out what housing will work in your community, put the plans in place, pass these projects locally, and find your private partners to help you build it out with the assistance of the Commonwealth. And then we will be on a path forward that will create even more opportunities in this great Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I just want to finally close that Mayor Lachapelle is really bringing the right energy and focus to this issue. And I know with the plans that this community has in place, local zoning decisions will have to be made. And a 2/3 threshold is a high threshold to meet. And if we can pass this legislation to get to a majority vote, more communities can follow the lead of this community and others to build the kinds of housing that will work. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be here to highlight this important issue, and understand that we have a lot of work to do with our legislative partners to make sure that this bill becomes a reality here in our Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for underscoring the work that you've already done on the behalf of East Hampton and what's coming next. Talking about what's coming next, I invite to the microphone our new state representative, Dan Carey, who is very familiar with East Hampton and especially this district. Won't go into age, but I think that Dan can offer us a perspective of what this used to look like and where we're going. Representative Carey?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for coming and visiting us here in East Hampton today. As the Mayor alluded to, I grew up here in East Hampton. And when I was younger, if you told someone you were from East Hampton, you always had to qualify it with another town. I'm from East Hampton. It's near Northampton. It's near Holyoke. It's near Springfield. And then you might get, oh, yeah, I guess I know where that is. Now, over the last 3 months in my new position, I'm getting to know colleagues who are state reps from every corner of the state. And when I tell people now that I'm from East Hampton, they don't say, oh, yeah, I guess I know where that is. Their eyes light up and they say, oh, yeah, I know where that is. East Hampton's got that great restaurant I love. East Hampton's got those great breweries. I've gone on your bike path. I've seen what you've done with your old mill buildings. It's amazing the changes that have occurred here in East Hampton since I grew up here. I remember as a kid, we used to ride our bikes. They were not electric bikes. We used to ride our bikes all around here, and there's some crazy little pathways you can get into and through these buildings. And we used to make up ghost stories about all these mills. They were all empty and abandoned, and it was there was not much going on back here. And so I'm very proud to have been a city councilor for a few years and to have played a small part in some of these improvements that have happened here in East Hampton, not just in this neighborhood, but throughout the town. And I'm especially excited to look at these buildings as we stand here today and think about the old ghost stories we used to tell about them. And you can picture the hair salons in there and the restaurants and the artist studios and the offices and the housing. There's a lot of people that live in these buildings, and it's, 12-year-old me would not have believed you if you said people were going to be living in these buildings. So it really is amazing the progress that's happened so far and all the positive ways East Hampton has improved over the years. And as much as I'm excited to have been a part of it these last 3 years, I'm even more excited to be a part of it now as East Hampton State Representative. And we know that the folks who looked at these buildings all those years ago had a vision and worked hard with a good team to actually get this done, to be able to stand here and look at what it is today. And so I'm especially excited about the great team we have now, because we're continuing that vision and we're continuing to push the envelope and come up with some new ideas. And it's going to take a lot of teamwork and a lot of hard work of people working together. And so I'm very excited to have Mayor Lachapelle here and Lieutenant Governor Polito. And I know we've got a great team of people who want to do the hard work and believe that teamwork's the way to get it done, with local government, state government, Democrats, Republicans, and we can all work together and continue to improve East Hampton, continue to move it forward in positive ways, and not just East Hampton, but all of Western Mass and all 351 cities and towns here in Massachusetts. So thank you very much for coming out today. It's very exciting to be here. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not that tall. All of this work that we've done in East Hampton really is not possible without good regional partners. I'd like to bring to the podium now Joanne Campbell from Pioneer Valley CDC as a strong partner in the past for East Hampton around housing, but also going forward. Joanne?
Good afternoon. I want to first congratulate the mayor and the lieutenant governor in the designation for East Hampton. That is such great news. We have been a long-term partner with the city of East Hampton for many years. More recently, we completed the Parsons Village development, partnering with the city through CPA funds, also with Wayfinders, and that's at 71 Parsons if anyone wants to go by. It's a 38-unit all-affordable rental development. We also are currently running with the City of East Hampton, a down payment program for first-time home buyers. And as Lieutenant Governor said, pricing, East Hampton is really, prices are accelerating, and we're having, first-time homebuyers are having great difficulty in finding something affordable without 5 or 6 bids on any particular house. Also, in the long term, we also had done a bunch of economic development programs with the city of East Hampton as well. So we have a long-term relationship. We wish to continue that. We have had a number of conversations with Mayor LaChapelle around how to encourage more affordable housing in East Hampton, and we look forward to additional conversations about that. And I just want to close with around the Housing Choice Initiative. So on behalf of Valley Community Development and our trade association, which is Mass Association of CDCs, we represent about 88 CDCs and nonprofit housing organizations across the Commonwealth. We are extremely supportive of the governor's Housing Choice Initiative. We see it has a lot of good goals in changing zoning that will encourage both general affordable housing development and, more importantly for us, more affordable housing development. So, thank you.
And then to bring our last speaker to the podium, Jana Tatro, who has led the East Hampton Affordable Partnership really through a very rigorous process of how housing becomes real in East Hampton on the local level. Jana's got a great story to tell and gives us some history on housing in East Hampton. Jana?
All right. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Polito, for visiting East Hampton today, and thank you, Mayor LaChapelle, for inviting me to speak. My name is Jana Tatro, and I'm the chair of the East Hampton Affordable and Fair Housing Partnership. The Housing Partnership is an advisory committee working hard to promote and preserve affordable housing and fair housing in East Hampton. It's been such an honor for East Hampton to be recognized as a housing choice community, really validating all of the hard work the city has been doing around affordable housing. I've had the privilege of being involved in the work that has happened over the last 10 years, and I'm really proud of what we've accomplished in East Hampton. The Housing Choice Initiative is such an important tool for cities like East Hampton as we look for new and innovative ways to keep our community a vibrant and welcoming place for people to live and work, as evidenced by the new Valley Bike Share program. Another way that the Housing Choice Initiative makes a difference is a project that the Housing Partnership is currently working on with support from our CPA committee, the City Council, Mayor LaChapelle, and our planning department. We're currently conducting a study of our existing single-room occupancy units to determine the physical needs of each property. Most of these units are permanent supportive housing for people with disabilities and house some of our most vulnerable residents in East Hampton. We're doing this work now in order to be prepared for future grant opportunities that may come available for housing choice communities for capital improvement repairs for affordable housing. These are critical units to our affordable housing stock, and the Housing Partnership and the city are committed to ensuring that they are safe and quality homes. As all of this great work is happening, we still have challenges too in East Hampton. We have a lack of remaining land available for new development, which makes the restoration and renovation of our existing underutilized buildings behind me even more important. We have continued conversations about how to balance our valuable open space with housing development, and we have an overall lack of adequate transportation in our region. An act to promote housing choices will allow further flexibility for cities and towns to really examine what our barriers are that are unique to our community for housing production, and how can we work locally to address them. The Housing Partnership looks forward to continuing to work with our local and state leaders on how to address these issues. This is a really exciting time for East Hampton. I think all of the speakers have mentioned that. We have a lot to be proud of, and we still have a lot of work left to do, and I know the Housing Partnership is really excited to be involved. Thank you.
Thank you so much. In closing out our program, I would be remiss not to acknowledge a lot of our partners in the audience today. Tim Brennan from the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, thank you so much for coming here today. I see some of our mill owners, Will Bundy of Eastworks, and I think I just saw Aaron Whitmer from the Keystone building joining us today. And of course, one of our most visible mill owners, Mike Michon, who took on Mill 180 years ago and now is leading the charge on One Ferry. Thank you so much for taking the risk and putting the investment into East Hampton. Mike, really appreciate that. We also have key members of our East Hampton team here. Our planning department, Planner Jeff Bagg, Assistant Planner Jamie Webb. I see in the way back, carrying up the rear, Captain Patnode, Deputy Chief Wayne Henneman, the leader of our fire department, Chief Motter. Yes, there we go. Thank you, Jerry. Jerry, one of our frequent flyers on our bike path. Thank you, veteran. Thank you for your service. I also want to recognize, too, some of the key volunteers in our community who stand here yet again, backing our initiatives on all levels. And I have to point out Treehouse Communities, which has had so much success with their development and really stand as a way forward for others. And then the unofficial official photographer and documentarian of East Hampton, Pat Bruff. So you can talk to Pat later about prints. Superintendent Allison LeClaire is here, heading up our initiative for a brand new school. Thank you all for attending. And one more thing, Lieutenant Governor, on the behalf of the city of East Hampton and our local business owner, I think he's here, Mr. Cobb from Manhand Bicycles, we have a gift for you. If you'd like to open it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
You want to use the podium?
Let's go over here so everyone can see.
Yeah.
What we have here. Very exciting. Can you guess what it is? Woo! That's awesome. That's so good.
We hope you come back and use the bikes. Excellent.
That's so good.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much.